Once again, thank you all for joining. Today is the Career Speaker Series. Today's featured speaker is Erica Lenard, the founder of Joyful Consulting. So I wanted to give a little bit of a background. So on Erica, she's built quite a decorated 20-year career at organizations such as Disney, Mattel, MTV, Viacom, Yahoo, and NBCU. There she led teams to create, pitch, and implement omni-channel marketing and media campaigns across various types of platforms: digital, social, broadcast, mobile, and experiential. So what she's doing now is leading a new consultancy, delivering strategic marketing solutions grounded in extensive experience, data and insights, creativity, passion, and hard to drive business efficiency and revenue growth for large corporations as well as startup organizations, the little guys. Previously, Erica was the director of enterprise franchise management with Disney, where she led the creation and implementation of global cross-company marketing initiatives and business strategy for the multi-billion-dollar cross-line of business evergreen franchises, Disney Princess and Frozen. I'm a young adult male. I've heard of those. I know you've all heard of those as well. Very, very popular. So her background is in brand identity development, franchise building, multi-platform marketing, ad sales, marketing, partnerships, and promotions for various audiences. And there she brings a fresh perspective and passion when identifying and developing future mega brands. So with that, let's thank again Erica for her time today. And I see the virtual claps, very excellent. So what was actually really nice, Erica, you actually had something to share with us.
I do. And thank you so much for the intro. And I realize I need to edit down a little bit of the bio. It's very wordy. But it is an example of that I've done a lot, and I'm really excited to share with you guys all the great stuff that I've worked on, and hopefully provide you guys with some ideas for your future if it's something that you're interested in. So yeah, I'm going to show a little bit of a presentation. I wanted to start out by kind of asking some questions of you guys. So I know if any of the moderators in the room might be able to answer some of the questions. So I'm going to start by trying to share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see that. Hopefully great. I got a thumbs up. All right. So just a little bit of an overview. The images at the top are just a few of the brands that I got to work on, which is super exciting when you put it all in one. So let me start with some questions for you guys. So let's start. When you think of superheroes, what are some adjectives you think of? If you guys can just type that in, that'd be great. I'll give you a minute. Brave, fantastic. Any others? Mighty, awesome. Corny, powerful, intellectual, fantastic. All right, you guys can keep writing, but the next one, your favorite toys as a kid, which ones do you think of? See, I can't wait to see this. Cars, Spider-Man, love it. What else? Maybe a couple more and then we'll go to the last one. Barbie Legos. There's Barney. Coloring pencils. Ooh, that's going to go against what I'm going to talk about, but I love that one. All right, Lego. What are some brands you think of? Oh, Star Wars. Great. Any other Lego brands that you think of when you think Lego? Harry Potter. Amazing. All right, well, I kind of want to take a step back and I'm going to talk about 3 different kinds of Bionicle. That's great. So there are 3 different kinds of marketing that I've worked on in the past. I've worked on brand marketing, I've worked on content strategy or content marketing, and I've worked on partnership marketing. And each of these questions that I've posed here are actually I'll show you why all of those functions and all of the experience that I've had have led you guys to answer the way that you did. So I will explain what that means in a second. So brand marketing, what is it? So this is again, very wordy, apologies, but it's a long-term strategic plan to continuously boost a brand's recognition and reputation. The goal really is to develop an ever-growing base of loyal customers or fans And it's achieved by continually and consistently communicating the brand's identity and values in meaningful and engaging ways. So the first question I asked you guys was, what do you think of when you think of superheroes? And some of those descriptors or adjectives that you guys mentioned, I mean, that was part of obviously the storyteller's, goal was to have you feel that way, but it's also the marketer's goal when they're using those characters in promoting the movies or the content or the toys, to market and promote them so that you remember those values and those descriptions and adjectives. So within a company, brand marketing is usually all encompassing, and it's all about, but it's constantly evolving. So depending on what's happening in culture, pop culture, whether it's a political topic or just sort of a sociological, conversation happening, it needs to be woven in and thought of when you're marketing a specific project, whether you need to avoid something or you actually want to lean into something. But it's also really what defines how you communicate, how you sell, and how you promote products and services. And sort of what is that message you want your customers and your consumers and your audience to think of? And that's what brand marketing really is. So you're building awareness, you're improving perception and affinity or interest in a brand, meaning you want to make sure people are loving it and happy and positive. And if there's any negative feedback, you want to try to fix that. You want to increase engagement with the brand. So whether that means buying things, talking about them, engaging with them on social media, watching their content, watching the movies. And then ultimately it's to make money. So everything you're going to see here is to make money for brands, right? That's what marketing does, is that we want to get customers and consumers in the door, and audiences in the door. So that's really what brand marketing is. It's sort of the core and the heart of whatever it is you're promoting. And it's really fun. So that's what I did in some of my other brands or in some of my work. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. So the next area of marketing that I've worked on was content strategy. So what that is that I ideated and created content at scale to engage, entertain, and educate consumers. So as I mentioned, there's the brand marketing, which is kind of like the top type of marketing that you do that's sort of overarching. Content strategy may be just one component of that. So what does that mean? When I worked at Mattel, we had a bunch of different toy brands. So Hot Wheels or Barbie, or we had Masters of the Universe, which is one that I'm going to show you guys. And we had to come up with, how are we going to create content on YouTube, a TV show on Netflix, social content across Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, which wasn't then there. It wasn't alive when I was there, or a thing. But now it is. And so how do we create content so we can reach our audiences in bigger and better ways? So we would recommend, develop recommendations, looking at data, how, who's using the platforms, and then also looking at our budget, because if you guys didn't know, animated content is very expensive. And since we were trying to reach kids with toy brands, animation was probably the best way to do that. Whether it was drawn, CG, computer animation, or stop motion animation was another thing. It's all very, very expensive. So we needed to figure out a way to do something in a way that wasn't going to cost us too much money. And really, again, it's about driving awareness. If it was a brand new toy we wanted to come out with, we wanted to drive awareness for that brand. We want to get people to love it, or learn to love it again. So maybe, for example, it was Masters of the Universe, which was out in the 80s and has had like a little bit of awareness, but we wanted people to love it again in this sort of new version. And then ultimately drive toy sales, because as I said, it's about making money. And then, yeah, it was about, executing competitive analysis and trend tracking. So what does that mean? It's look at what are the other people doing. So what are the competitive companies doing? What's Hasbro doing when it comes to Transformers? What are they doing with My Little Pony? And how do we learn from them, both what worked and what didn't? And finding out also what's trending. So in the social platforms, what are the formats that are working that kids are really loving, or YouTube? What is it? Is stop motion working? Is it CG animation going to work best? And what are some of those ways that we can use those trends in those platforms to get people to engage with the content? So that's content strategy. And then the last area that I worked on was called ad sales marketing. And it's actually called a few things at a few different companies. And I want to point that out because if you're interested in this area, you may find it when you're looking at jobs or opportunities, you may find this called something different at every company. So it's also known as integrated marketing, partnership marketing, sponsorship marketing. So it's called a bunch of different things at different places. And what that means is that it was about coming up with custom marketing solutions for advertisers who are willing to spend money because they, on television networks, on digital platforms, in video games, in movies, they want to get integrated into that content and be side by side those characters and in that story, because they find that it's more valuable than creating commercials, which nobody watches anymore. So they try to find ways to integrate. There could also be custom branded content where there may be like a mini series that's on, you know, YouTube or on social that's co-branded to promote both the, let's say it's an auto manufacturer, as well as, you know, that's been featured in a movie. So for example, I think Audi is promoted in James Bond and 007 a lot. So that's one example. And then content marketing is another way, and digital ad products. So there could be some really fun ways, but it's a way to marry the two brands. So the whole point is to maintain a good balance of both the advertiser's message and making sure that you say what it is that they want to promote, and then also make sure it maintains the integrity of the network or platform or brand that you're marrying it to, so that there's a even balance, but you're delivering on the goals of both sides. It's an interesting role. But it provides you a ton of experience in working with different brands that you may not get if you just worked on one individual brand. So that is just a really quick overview of the kinds of marketing that I've done and all the different touch points that I mentioned that were mentioned in my bio, whether that was on TV and digital, experiential, which means like live events or pop-ups that you may have seen, are all areas that I've touched in all of these different roles. So I'm super excited to share a little more on that. I just wanted to share some examples of how those came to life. So for Disney Princess, when I worked for Disney, my role was to work within the company on behalf of sort of every division within the company and establish what is the message we want to send about Disney princesses every year. So we wanted people to come away with some descriptors, some adjectives about princess to make sure that people knew that they were strong and smart and kind and empowered. Because a lot of people had negative feelings about princesses, and especially around the world. That was what was great about this role. So I got to work with people all over the world and find out what they really thought about princess and how could we change people's perception of princesses. So it was about coming up with a fun marketing campaign. So we decided to celebrate princesses and create the ultimate princess celebration. We did a music video. If you guys haven't seen it, check out Starting Now. Brandy, the singer Brandy, who also appeared as Cinderella in a version of Cinderella for Disney, it's also on Disney Plus, did a music video for us and recorded that, which was amazing. There was a special on Disney Channel. And again, it was all about highlighting the courage and the kindness of princesses and really getting people to remember that that is their strong qualities, as opposed to being all about finding the prince or feeling like they needed a prince to sort of save the day. We really wanted to change that perception for princesses. And then ultimately, as I mentioned, it's about making money. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that there were unique products that were created specifically for this campaign to sell. It was also about viewership, and we wanted people to go to Disney Plus and watch the Disney Princess movies. So it was a really fun experience. Oh, I went right to the page. Hold on. Where am I? Can you guys still see the screen? Great. The next one was for content strategy. So really exciting. If you aren't familiar with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, it was not in development, but the revamp of the series and the reintroduction of the series, which was a really big part of childhood of dads that were born in the 80s and so like late 70s, early 80s. And they had kids that were just the right age to be reintroduced to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So there was a ton of development of what could we do to relaunch this series and introduce it to new audiences while still making sure that the people that knew it from before loved it. So we developed a whole strategy, including a ton of YouTube content, relaunching the toys, because again, this was working for Mattel, a toy company, but we also worked with Netflix to create 2 original series. One that was a little bit older in terms of its target audience and had sort of an anime feel. And then the next one was a little bit more of a kid-focused CG series. Both of them are on Netflix now, and it's done really well, and I think people are really excited. So that was an example of content strategy. And then the last one is actually something that I'm doing now. So while I'm not working for any of those companies now, I am working as a consultant, which I can explain what that is in a minute, but I am working for a company called Camp. And they are a toy store, but they're more than just a toy store. They have a bunch of locations all over the country and one in LA opening in a couple weeks. But they're half toy store and then half like experience center. What that means is that there's like a back area of their toy store that kids can come and play. There's slides, there's arts and crafts. They can open any toy they want and play with it on the ground. And it's just really, really fun. And what they do at some of their locations is they turn that back space into a ticketed experience. So it's a themed experience, very interactive, very immersive. Kids go in and play and do all these sorts of like adventures and really fun things. And so there's a new one we just announced yesterday. Actually, this is perfect timing because I wouldn't have been able to tell you it last week. But I want to show you guys a little teaser video. It doesn't show much, but it's really cute. And you'll see who it's with. Happened again. Sorry. All right. Hopefully this works for you guys. I'm going to hit play. Don't worry about if you can't hear the sound. It's just some silly stuff. So if you couldn't tell, this is an example of partnership marketing. So I work on behalf of camp, but we're partnering with Disney, which was a nice little fun connection for me, and creating a Mickey and Friends themed experience in our stores. So the first one's going to launch in New York City. At every toy store, every camp toy store, they have what's called a magic door, which is what you're seeing on screen now. And behind them, and it's sort of a hidden wall, and kids get to open it up and go to that back area. And the whole back area will be a really fun adventure themed to Mickey Mouse and Friends. So very excited about that, but that's just an example of partnership marketing. What I'm doing right now, which is consulting, is something that basically you're giving advice to various companies that are sort of looking for experience or expertise in a certain area. And because of all my background that I've mentioned, I've worked at all those companies. I came to a point in my life where I thought I could offer wisdom across a variety of areas. And I was very fortunate to have met the head of camp, and they invited me to help work with them and develop some marketing campaigns for them. And this is one of them. So the consulting, I'm not going to focus too much on because it's one that is sort of way down the line, and you have to build a little bit of experience in order to offer those services. But I would love to talk more about marketing with you guys and how you can get into any one of these areas. So I'm just going to wrap up and then open up for questions with one thing, which is how do you get into marketing? What are some tips that I can give you guys? Oh, it's still being shared. Well, I'm going to share one more screen. We can go next. So career advice. So I just want to share with you guys a little bit on how you can get into marketing, and then I'll open it up to questions. So first up, classes to take. So when you guys are going to college, I definitely want to encourage you guys to take classes that are in marketing specifically, so you can learn about all the different types, as well as all the different ways that you're going to be able to reach consumers in various ways. Communications is really important. It's also writing. You're going to actually have to do a lot more writing than you realize when it comes to marketing, whether that's in presentations to various clients, or even you're going to be a great writer and want to do copywriting. I think you should definitely, I encourage you guys to take classes that are going to strengthen your writing skills. Journalism is also a good one. While you don't necessarily need to be a reporter, I think it's really important to learn how you can impact and influence audiences, and journalism will help you do that. And then any sort of advertising classes specifically. So advertising is one piece of marketing, but I think it'll be really helpful. There's also business classes you can take as well, but those are the core ones that I think will help give you an understanding more of what it takes, some of the foundational skills you'll need to know in marketing. The next one is networking. So one of the things, what that means is meeting people and building relationships with them. It's something that's really proved to be very helpful for me in the long run. Try to stay positive in whatever you do. Keep an upbeat attitude. Build those relationships. Make friends. Meet a lot of people. Keep in touch with them. It's going to serve you in the long run. I think it is probably the best piece of advice that I can give to anybody. Networking is so important. Try to get introduced to various people and keep them on your radar. Try to secure internships. If you can, I know during school is going to be really tough, but over the summer, I would really recommend you try to get as many internships as you're able to. I know sometimes it's really hard. You have to balance that with, a paying job. Internships don't always pay, although more and more companies, especially in LA, are paying for internships now, which is great. But I really recommend as many internships as possible, because then you can kind of hit the ground running and understand what the corporate culture looks like when you go into when you've graduated and you can go into the working world. And then the last one is something that people I think are afraid of. When they get out of college, they just want to go hit the ground running and get a really great job that's got a great title and be high paid and whatever. If you can, I really would not be worried about starting at the bottom. When I started, I had a few years under my belt of working as an administrative assistant. And it was essentially, being an assistant to, various folks within various departments. And it was one of the best, most valuable things that I've ever done in my career. It builds a foundation that you can use while moving up. You know how the inner workings of companies are, how to get things done. You can become resourceful. Starting at the bottom, do not be afraid. It is so valuable. So with that, I just wanted to pause. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it back and see if there's any questions. But that was my presentation on marketing.
Wow, thank you so much, Erica. That is so excellent. And by the way, it just kind of shows that when someone goes above and beyond. She was mentioning making a lot of presentations. That was done by her volunteering to create one. So just as she's mentioning all these different skills, just, even the willingness to create your own different materials for presentations, that also goes a really long way. And so please, she did share a lot of information. So, oh, excellent. So we're getting some questions. So what was your college major? Thank you for that.
Yeah, that is a great one. My college major was communication arts, radio, television, film. So I didn't major in marketing specifically or journalism. You didn't ask this, but my first job out of college was actually in public relations. So a little bit different area, which also that could be a way to market. But it was communication arts, so communications.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. And as a piggyback to that, what made you decide to choose that field or to choose that major?
Yeah, so, well, it's an interesting going back in time. When I first went into college, I thought I was going to be a teacher. So I loved it. I absolutely thought that I was going to work with kids, which maybe is why I work in kids and family entertainment right now. As I started to realize that maybe that wasn't the specific area of focus I wanted to go in, I tried to find a way to meet my interest in entertainment along with kids. And I tried to create my own major, which is very hard to do. Highly encourage, if you want to do that, make it happen. But I tried to merge child development or sort of an education curriculum with communications so that I could do a children's television or children's entertainment major. Got a little tricky at my school in a way that I couldn't do it. So I ended up focusing on communications, and then clearly that desire to work within the kids and family space never left, and I'm back here. So that's my little background story.
Wow, that's so excellent. And so you were able to research those two different majors, find out they were both a fit, and I want to do something that gets both of this.
Exactly. So I took a lot of minor classes, sort of electives that were in the area of child development and children's children's literature. Wow, children's literature, other things to sort of fulfill that passion of mine while sticking with communication, so that I could make sure I had a strong degree in something that would really carry me through. So I never lost it.
Excellent. We had one question coming through the chat. What if any celebrities have you met? Good question.
Oh my goodness. I've met, easier said than done. I've met a few in my life, having grown up I'm from Los Angeles. I'm a Los Angeles native. So I grew up here, and, having grown up here, you tend to run into some occasionally as you're out and about. So I'm trying to think of anybody that would be willing. Jake Gyllenhaal, I actually grew up with him. I think, that's a really relevant and current one. Other ones you guys might not be as familiar with, but Jake is probably sort of the big one right now. He's a good guy.
Very cool. Another question. Thank you for the questions that are coming in. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So you've been working got very great experience. Now you're a consultant. So yeah, where do you foresee in 5 years?
That's a good question. I really, something that I've learned is that if you look too far out, and you guys are all going to get asked this question, by the way, and so you should have a better answer than I do, especially early on. You want to have goals, you want to have ambitions, and I always have. I've been very driven, I've been very motivated, and I've always worked really hard to grow in my career. And I've always felt like eventually maybe I want to be a CMO or a chief marketing officer someday of a company. I think that that's still something I'd love to do. Whether that's in 5 years or not, I don't know. But I really would love to be able to work for a company or build a really great big kids and family brand and build it either from ground up or really grow one that's maybe, hasn't gotten a lot of attention lately, and bring it back into, everybody's consciousness and awareness about it. So in 5 years, I would love to have introduced a new brand that's going to go do amazing things, either from scratch or bring one back. So that's what I'd love to do in 5 years.
Excellent. Scanning. Okay. I'll ask you another question. So you mentioned that when you first, you got out of college, you already had some banked experience that you could, start at another one and hit the ground running. So how did you feel when you were looking for your first job out of college?
I was excited, I gotta say. I was very fortunate that I had a few internships under my belt, for the summers that I was able to during college, which was really, really helpful. I had worked, actually, again, kids and family, I had worked for 2 different companies in their cartoon divisions. Again, this is when television was a thing and networks were a thing. The 2 networks that I worked for actually don't even exist anymore, but I had done a couple internships at various companies and had learned that I really loved marketing and promotions. My senior year in college, I had worked as a PR lead for an organization on my campus. It was just a fun program that we did, and I got a bunch of publicity for it in my local town of my college. I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison, by the way, if anybody's curious. I did leave LA for college, and we had a really fun sort of musical theater event that we did every year, and I did the PR for it and promoting and trying to sell tickets. So I realized PR was something I might want to do. And I started doing research on companies and who were their clients and what kinds of business within the PR world did I want to represent. And I ended up at a really great company. I ended up applying to a bunch. And again, it was about networking and sort of reaching out and meeting people through other people. So connections did help, or getting introduced from other people was really helpful. Not everybody has that ability, but I encourage you to just sort of blind write somebody if you want occasionally and reach out. And I ended up at a PR firm that handled TV shows and we did like a PlayStation release party once, and I was in charge of the press line. It was really cool. But I started out as an assistant. I was an assistant to the head of a division there, and I was essentially answering her phone, scheduling her meetings, and doing whatever, making faxes, which is not a thing. But I highly encourage it because, again, I had a couple assistant jobs even after that, and it was really, really valuable. But I was excited. I was ready to go.
Yeah, and you mentioned, so we're coming up toward the end, but I just wanted to share Erica's different responses. I hope that you're hearing that, not only was she sharing her earlier suggestions about mentoring, but it's surprising if you Google an organization that you want to work for, you can find a lot about them. And so that will, either confirm or lessen your interest in wanting to connect with them in the future. So once again, we're at our scheduled time of 1:25. I wanted to let's all thank Erica so much, not only just for her questions, but for her presentation. It was very, very, very thorough. So that was excellent.
Thank you. Thank you guys all.